All right, good morning, everyone. Let me just rearrange my screen so you can see and have the chat up. So as we go through this, there's quite a bit of interaction, I would say. So if you would love to go ahead and join the presentation, I put the link in the chat, and I'll try to be mindful about replaying it or resharing it over and over again. I'm still trying to see. There we go. I'm like, I don't need to see my presentation. I already see it. Okay, so here we are. So go ahead and click the link that's in the chat. I am using Wakelet to go ahead and present today. And so the way I've set it up, it's in a linear fashion. So you would scroll up to get to the information. So to start us off, I love to go ahead and just have you dive in using Wakelet. So at the moment, you do not need an account. But what you will do is you'll notice that in this space, what's nice about Wakelet is it allows you to include links, images, documents, and we'll look at all that Flipgrid shorts. But there is a check-in. Go ahead and click on that. Now for you, if you go ahead and copy that link and paste it in, sometimes it does allow you to just go ahead and click on it, and other times you have to like copy it. I'm really sorry, Alma. So try that to see. When you click on that link, for you, if this is your first time or you don't even have an account, and again, you don't need one right now, I would say like participate in this and then make your decision afterwards. But go ahead, it'll ask you to like type your name, go ahead and type your name, join that space. Then you'll notice that there's a edit button in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead and click on that green edit button. And what's nice is me as the creator of this space, if you are looking at my shared screen, you'll see that I'll start to see people like pop up, populate, right? Which is really cool. So you'll see how many people are in that space. But to add in this space, what you would do, and I even have the directions here. So this is a great way that if you are using this with students, or let's say you're using this with others who don't have an account, what I did was I shared a link with you that allowed you to contribute. So we call it the contributor link. The contributor link allows you to add things, but not take away and not move around. So what you would do to add in this space is you would go ahead and click on the green circle with the plus sign, scroll over to the icon that looks like a paper and a pencil, which then will open up a space for you to add text. And again, what I've done is just gone ahead and set up a collaborative space that allowed you to be a contributor. So again, this is a great way if you know, you're trying this out for the first time, or if you are introducing this to staff, or even with your students, maybe you don't want your students to have an account. So this was a cool way as well. Before, only students who were 13 and up could have their own account until recently. This past summer, yeah, it's been a couple months now, they've gone on ahead and made it a way for students under 13 to have an account. And the way that's done is you as the teacher, you have an admin space. What you would do is then bring in your classes either from Clever, from Google Classroom, or from Microsoft 365, something like that, that then you would bring in your classes. And that's how students would be able to access it. They would use their, you know, log in with Google, log in with Clever, whatever that space is. And then you can see everything that they're doing. And they don't have all of the same capabilities. Like they, as a creator, so as someone who has an account, I could bring in like tweets from Twitter. I could bring in, you know, a Flipgrid short. Now for students, they wouldn't be able to do that. So anything that requires them to have an additional account, they can't do that in the Wakelet space when you're bringing in your class, like your Google Classrooms and stuff like that. So we've got some different people here, and I'm so glad that you are here. Veronica said that spending time with their family. Yes, I'm like you. That's definitely helping to fill my bucket. summer is filling your bucket. I love that, Tara. Thank you for being here. I love how like some of you are testing it out. Go ahead, like use the space to do that as well. But thank you all for being in this space. Again, if you're looking at my shared screen, you'll see that I can see like the little bubbles, kind of mimics like Google, right? Where like if they join your Google slide or join your Google Doc, you can see who's there in that space. So that allows me to do that. Now, while you're going ahead and introducing yourselves, I will tell you who I am. So my name is Leticia Citizen. I'm an I-4 coach at Hawthorne School in Beverly Hills Unified School District. I've just completed my 21st year as an educator. This is my 3rd year as a coach. Prior to that, I taught kindergarten for 2 years, 1st grade for 7, and 5th grade for 9 years. I spent 16 years in Pasadena Unified, taught 2 years in Arcadia, and then when I was looking for a new job, actually Beverly Hills heard me speaking at ISTE in Chicago and invited me in to interview, and I've been there for the past 3 years, which has been really cool. My virtual business card is here. You'll notice that I am an ambassador and a trainer for quite a few ed tech platforms that I think do a phenomenal job of letting our students create and really be expressive, in addition to listening to teacher and student feedback about how to enhance that platform as well. So if you would go ahead after you've introduced yourself, come back to the Wakelet and make sure that you scroll down past me, who I am. And I just want to know your exposure to Wakelet. So again, I've set up this space for you. This is using a GIF or GIF, however you choose to pronounce it. Go ahead and click on that Wakelet. Again, I've shared with you the contributor link. And something that was just brand new to Wakelet, they announced it the 1st week of June. Now you can add a GIF or a GIF as a response. So again, go ahead and click edit. Come to the plus sign and scroll over to image. Yes, I will, Jessica. You'll notice that when you click on that image, you're welcome. When you click on that little icon, you have some options. Go ahead and choose from Giphy or Jiffy, however you want to pronounce it. And just try to search for one to tell me what's your exposure to Wakelet. Like, have you used it before? Is this your first time? I will tell you, and I love sharing my story, that when Wakelet first came out, I wanted to do nothing with it. I was like, Janelle, seriously? You're the first person to tell me that. Refresh. Let's see what happens. Yeah, try to refresh it. And then click on image. I'm curious as to why that's happening. But for my own story, when Wakelet first came out and people were telling me about it, I was like, don't tell me another thing. I don't want to hear it. I'm already set in my ways. I know I already like use all the things I want to use. I already know what to do. And I would say maybe 6 months later, I was with a friend who was presenting about Wakelet, and I just kind of went to support her. And I saw like all these amazing things that she was doing. And I finally, add my name, but then it goes to a blank page. Oh, Tara, that typically happens if like, I'm sorry, Janelle, I don't know why it won't let you upload one. Now, Tara, if you would go ahead and refresh, a lot of times, like if you have a delay in your internet, it will do that. It did that with my students this past year when I had them using it. I don't know what's going on now. All right, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I don't know why it's not giving you that option. Let's chat after, or because I want to let them know. Okay. But yeah, so it took me just to like go into her session, see how she was doing some things. And then the first thing that I tried was actually creating a newsletter. So as a coach, I do create a newsletter every week for my teachers. And what I like to do is every month I try to use a different platform that we're using, in our district, just to demonstrate a different way to use that platform. And so I went on ahead and created Wakelet for I think like the month of September. And I did that for 4 weeks using it. And that really got me into it. So I always like to tell people, check it out first, see what's available, see all the things that people are creating. And then if you have your own ideas, try that. But I find that if you find your own personal connection to it, then that makes it 10 times better. So now it's been my favorite tool for the past 2-3 years now, which has been really crazy. So I see some people, Clarissa said she just signed up. Awesome. Yeah. And then Alma, she's looking through, kind of stressed out. I'm really sorry. We've got someone, Michael said that he's only used it once. So thank you for sharing that in the space. So you can go ahead and keep doing that. So it looks like we have a lot of newbies. And I'm just going to refresh just in case I couldn't. So again, and I'm hoping, I don't know why it's happening for some of you and others not. Again, if you press that plus sign, come to the image, it should be in the middle. But I want to let them know too that that's happening. All right, so if we come back here, it looks like I said, we have a lot of newbies. So I'm going to go through, show you some examples of how I use it. There'll be some spaces, some collaborative spaces that I'm going to create, that I've created for you, so that way you can go in and respond. It just gives you a way to try it out. But the first thing that I love to share is that Wakelet does have an extension, a Chrome extension. And so you'll notice, if you are looking at my screen, you'll notice that in my extensions bar, you'll see this blue W. Now, one of the ways that I love to use Wakelet, now if you're like me, who has tons of tabs up all the time, let's say I'm looking for a specific theme, or I'm going through and doing some curation for my teachers and I have all these tabs up, there are 2 things that I can do. Now, if I know that I'm going to keep all of those tabs, what's nice about the Wakelet extension is I'm going to go ahead and right click it. I'm going to come to options, because I don't have this clicked all the time. I can set this up so that every time I open up a new tab, Wakelet will open up. And again, I only do this when I know I'm going to save all of my tabs. Okay, so let's say, okay, Jessica. Yeah, you all let me know, and then I want to let them know and find out what's going on. Now everything works fine, Jackie, but it should still work if you don't have an account. So let me check into that. I wonder if they changed it. So I'm going to go ahead and initial, for all new tabs that open up, it'll go to Wakelet. And again, I only do this when I know I want to save all the tabs and put them into a collection. So what happens now is when I click on a new tab, it brings my Wakelet account immediately to that space, but you'll notice that it shows me all my open tabs. Okay. So now what will happen is, if I wanted to create a collection with all those tabs, you'll notice on the right-hand bottom side, it says create collections with tab. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now what it does is it's bringing in all those tabs automatically for me. And I can go ahead and add a cover, I can add all the decorations, right? I can do add a background if I wanted to. I can give it a title. So right now I'm just going to say test, so that way I'll remember to delete this later. But you'll notice that these tabs that I had up are now into that collection. So that's the first thing that you can do with the Wakelet extension. Okay, is again, I right clicked on the W, came to options, and set it up so that way I wanted to save all those tabs. But for the most part, I usually have that off, because I'm not doing that all the time. That's just when I want to curate something. The other way I can do it, okay, let's say that, I don't know, I went to NEH.gov and there was something here that I wanted to save, okay? And I don't want to save all my tabs. The other way that I can instantly save this link to a collection is if I right click on that page, you'll notice that Save to Wakelet is an option. So again, this is all because I just downloaded that extension. So now I'm going to click this. It's again going to bring my Wakelet account. It shows me my immediate collections. Now I can see everything. Awesome, Clarissa. You'll notice that it like automatically brings in an image from that website. It automatically sets up a title, gives me some background information. I could change it if I want to, and then I can select where I want to save that link. So again, because of the position that I'm in as a coach, I do a lot of curating for my teachers. And then also I teach digital citizenship for the students. So when I'm setting up a collection that I want them to access for whatever lesson that we're doing, if I'm going through and looking at things online, I can automatically save them into that collection. The other cool thing about having this extension is if you are on Twitter, like I am, on Twitter, you'll notice that, it's supposed to. Typically, and I don't know why it's not working right now. Why are you doing this? I don't want to save it. Typically, when I go there, I have everything on in all places. I need to update. Let's see. So typically when I go to Twitter, then I have an option. There it is. I had to update it. Okay. So you'll notice that when I'm on Twitter under a tweet, let's say that I am looking up, i.e. Google Camp, right? I want to see all the tweets that are connected with it. And maybe I didn't attend one of the sessions, but someone shared like some resources. I can go ahead and click that W, and it's going to save that tweet to any collection that I want to. So I'm going to save it here. And then when I go to that test one, you'll see that the tweet is there. Okay, so that's just one way that the extension works. The other thing too is like when we're in brick and mortar and I'm attending conferences, then I also have the Wakelet app on my phone. And let's say that as I'm taking notes, and I'll show you an example of that, but as I'm taking notes and I'm like taking pictures, I can actually send that picture from my phone to that Wakelet collection, and it'll like pop up in real time as I'm typing my notes in a Wakelet collection. And what's nice is that anything that you add will automatically pop up at the top, and then I can just go in here and move it. Like I can manually move it, or if I know, oh, hey, I just want that all the way at the bottom, I can click it so that way it's immediately at the bottom. So that's number one thing that I really love about the extension, is that it really allows me, as I'm curating things, I can go ahead and send it in. And then if I'm like in person and I'm taking pictures and I'm still typing on my computer, taking notes, that I can send that information there and save all my tabs. All right, I'm coming back to this space. There's also a GIF here that Brad Dell, a good friend of mine, that he created. And so, I did point that out. And so you can take a look at those. So another way that I really used it as a coach is, again, once everything went virtual last year, it was, all right, how am I going to still submit information to my teachers? How am I going to share with them all the opportunities for PD? And so Wakelet became a great way for me to manage that and then share that out with teachers. So what's one cool thing is that teachers do not have to have a Wakelet account, or anyone does not need a Wakelet account in order to access your Wakelet. So that's really cool. Okay, and there's several different ways that you can share a Wakelet with someone. So if you want someone to just be able to like see your Wakelet, then I came up here to this arrow to share, and then I can share that link. Okay, so that's one way. If I share that link, all you can do is just see it. So like this whole collection, I shared it with you. You can only like look at that collection. You can't make any changes. You can't edit, none of that, right? If I wanted you, like earlier, I had you to share a gift, or I had you like, tell me who you are and what's filling your bucket, then I'm going to use what's called the invite link. That's the contributor link. And so there's a couple ways that you can share that. You can either share the exact link and, you can put that on Google Classroom if you want to. You can put that in the chat, however you want to set it up. There's a QR code that you can share, or there's a copy code or a code that you can give to people, and then they can just put that in when they go into Wakelet. You can keep generating a new one, so that way if you had shared it before and you don't want those people to have access to it anymore, generate a new one, and now you can go forth and use it. The other thing too is you have the option of determining how you want people to contribute. So if you just want people to be able to add things and that's it, then they would just remain a contributor. If I'm collaborating with someone else, so sometimes I present with other people and we'll use a Wakelet, I'll add them as an admin, which then gives them all the rights that I had. They can edit, they can, take away, they can move things around, they can change the title. So there's different ways that you can give people access to your Wakelet account. The other thing I did want to point out too is the visibility. All collections are by default set to private. Okay, so that means only you will see them in your Wakelet account. You also have the option of doing unlisted. Unlisted allows you to still share your link with others. They can contribute, but they won't see your collection publicly. That they can't go search for it in the Wakelet, world and like find it. The last option is public. What public does, and I only do that, I'm intentional about what's public, what's unlisted, and what's private for me. With the public, you have a profile on Wakelet. Any public collections that you make visible for others will be here on your profile. And then what's nice is then you can set up these, you can organize it in different, however you want to, you can organize those collections. So anyone who comes to my Wakelet account will see my public collections. So those are the three options that you have. Now, going back to PD. So I say that because then I created this space for my teachers for summer PD. Now you'll notice I set it up so that way it's by month. So I put a Wakelet inside of a Wakelet. I like to call those a tidal wave. And I set it up so that way it's organized June, July, and then August. And so when teachers click on those, then what I've done is as I found out about different PD opportunities, virtual or in person, then I just added that link to the Wakelet account. You'll notice right now that this one is set up. This is called the mood view. So there are 4 different views. I'll show you what those look like. You'll see right here that I can change the layout. So you have media view, which is the one that I have this entire collection in, right? It's linear. Then you have compact view. It's still linear, but it makes it smaller. You have grid view, which puts it side by side. And then you have mood view. So depending, again, on the purpose of that collection, then I like to choose which layout I'm in. In this case, because I have a lot of information that I want teachers to access, I find that it's just easier to set it up as a mood view. So that way they can then like scroll through and see things a lot easier as opposed to linear. If I have a lot, then they got to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it takes a while for that to happen. And then all of these are clickable for teachers to access. And so it would take them to that space. They can sign up or do whatever. I also set up a space for in case I got webinar recordings, then I would add those here. And then I also have a space for my teachers to go ahead and do a reflection. What's nice is that we have that documentation. If teachers want to turn those in for like credits or hours or whatever that is, then I can go ahead and curate that for them and send it to them or send it to the district for them to use and to gain their credit. So just setting up a PD space, and I got this idea from a good friend of mine, Amy Stower, who had set it up last year. And what I like to do is then just go ahead and make that public for anyone to go ahead and access if they so choose to do. Another way, I spoke about this earlier, is creating newsletters. So this was like my buy-in into Wakelet. I've seen people do this not only for teachers, but for students, giving a space for students to create the newsletter, creating newsletters for your parents. And again, just sharing that share link so that way they can access it. So we use ParentsWare in my district, so I can go ahead and share that link and then parents can click on it and take a look at the newsletter. But I just, I bring in images, so that's really nice as like my headers. I can type in information. I can link things if I want to. So you'll notice here, there's a link for them to go to it. But I just try to keep it at 3 quick things. Always a space, like try to connect it to a lesson based off of the platforms that we have in our district. Always try to offer them a PD opportunity outside of the district so that way they can check it out. And then I always have a space for them to like connect with me so that way we can collaborate and work on some coaching things. And so just, really quick, plugging those things in is really nice. I can include a video if I wanted to. You've got different options. So just using newsletters, and you'll see some other examples that are here as well. There's a space, and I'll show it to you. It's at the bottom for resources, but there's like templates that people have created that you can just go ahead and copy those templates and then just fill in the information if you don't want to start from scratch. Earlier, I spoke about like really using the Wakelet app on my phone, like when I'm in person and taking notes. So here's an example of one. I started I know you can use the doc, and I know you can, whatever you want to use to take your notes. I just found that Wakelet became a lot easier for me in terms of like, I can bring in those links. So if they're sharing, their slide deck, I can bring that in. I can link, to outside things, whatever that they're sharing. So here's a Padlet that they shared with us. I would go ahead and type that in and I'm just sitting there on my computer and typing, I can add text. Here's one of a picture. So I went on ahead and took a picture of the screen that they were showing, and then I just added it to my collection and it popped up in real time and I moved it to where I wanted to go. They were sharing YouTube videos. I go ahead and find that YouTube video and bring that in. What's nice about Wakelet too is that if you are bringing in YouTube videos, it does a great job of like cutting out all the commercials and all the like distractions that are on the side, right? So this is great for your littles. If you have videos that you want them to watch or connect with, sharing it on a Wakelet, so that way it cuts out all the excess things, is really cool. And so what the other part of this, of me taking my notes, is that when I'm finished, if my teachers weren't able to go to this conference, or maybe, they went to one session and I went to another one, then I can go ahead and just share this Wakelet collection with them. And now they have all the information too. So this became like a really easy way that when I came back from a conference, I shared this Wakelet with them and all the things were there. And if they had any questions, then they could just reach out to me. So I had shared like some different examples. Here's even, being virtual and still using Wakelet to go ahead and type my notes, and then even taking screenshots of things and bringing those in as images became really easy for me to do. And you've got some free range on how you want to do that. So notes, choice boards. Here's one where I use Wonderopolis a lot with students. And so setting up some different choice boards, some Wonder Stations. So again, going virtual, and how do we leverage these platforms to really connect and get students engaged and involved. So setting up these different Wonder Stations, the choice board, the directions are all there. The links are all here for them to access. And it will, like this one sends them to a Jamboard, and they can go ahead and go there and complete that. A different way that I set up the choice board is, again, bringing in Wakelets inside of a Wakelet. So this was for Dixit Week back in October. they would click on that Wakelet, and again, all the information is here. They don't have to like click on all the, go to different places, but it's here for them to access. So I, offered an activity for TK2, for 3-5, for everyone for TK5, and then always a family activity. And so everything was housed here, just sharing this out with parents, with students, with teachers, and then the kids would go in and setting up spaces for them to go ahead and respond, and seeing what they were talking about and what they were doing was like a new way to do it here using Wakelet. Close these all out. And then using it to curate, tools, curate resources. Again, as a coach, this is what I do a lot. So here's one that I created for back to school, and it has like, resources that I created, setting it up so that way it's slide decks, and then some activities that they can do in the classroom, even some parent information, and then other ideas from other teachers, and having permission to add them here in this space, but then sharing this out with teachers to access. So, doing all the work for teachers ahead of time, doing this for students as well. Here's one that I created for Black History Month, where again, I'm creating collections and putting them inside. I could go ahead and just list all the resources, but why not organize it to help my teachers out a little bit more? And what I really love is then always setting up a space. So that way, if there's a resource that I missed, or that teachers have like a great idea, then setting up a collection so that way they can contribute to that. And you'll see there's a difference, right, of how it looks. So this one on the left is a Wakelet collection that you can just go and look at and like click on other things. The one on the right, you'll see it looks a little different. This is a Wakelet collection, and it lets me know that this is one where they can collaborate. So teachers can go ahead and click on it and then add their resources if they wanted to. So you can see that there's clearly a different way that, depending on how you add that collection inside of a collection, lets you know the type that it is. So noticing those little differences there. Let's close this one. Here's one for Women's History Month. And then using it to collaborate. Now this became really huge this past year with students. Before students could have their own accounts, I used to just set up collaborative spaces for them to contribute. So here's one where I do this like every 6 to 8 weeks, where I do a check-in, the keep, stop, start. And so again, because I teach digital citizenship, the students, I shared with them the contributor link, and I walked them through how to go ahead and add their text, but they had to tell me what was something that they wanted to keep for our digital citizenship class, something that they wanted to stop, and something that they wanted to start. And then we would look at it as a class and talk about those things. And so again, students could go ahead, type their text, see each other's responses. Now I will point out that if you're looking at my screen, you'll notice that there are names there. Only I can see that. If students are looking at this, they don't see each other's names in there. So that's something that's really cool. The other thing that you'll notice is that it has like a little book with the little speaker. That is the immersive reader. So this is great. Like if you're creating newsletters or you're creating information for parents, right, that speak a different language, what they would do is go ahead and click on that little icon. And if you're not familiar with immersive reader will not only read the information. I don't know why mine is not working. Or I don't hear the sound. Unmute. Okay.
I want to start for the class, no homework.
So not only will it read it to them in English, and they can control, there's 2 options for voice selection and the speed of how they want it read, but you'll notice that there's these 3 icons over here. The first one is text preferences. So they can determine the text size. And this is all built into Wakelet. And actually Immersive Reader is doing this for a lot of platforms now. So Nearpod, Bunsy, I know has it, Flipgrid. And then there's 3 options for text type. You can increase the spacing or make it smaller. There's even, for our students who have visual, needs, then they can go ahead and choose how they want the background to look. The other thing is if you click in the middle, if you are focusing on syllables, then that will change up. If you're focusing on nouns and verbs, right, they can go ahead and choose those as options. And then this is the biggest one that I always love. They can, have it so that way it focuses on 1 line at a time, 3 at a time, or the entire document. There's also a picture dictionary where you can click on some of the words and there's an image there. But the last one is you can change the language. So again, if you're creating this newsletter or creating information for parents to access, or even your students, if you're working with students who speak a language other than English, then they can come here, select the language, right? Go ahead and select entire document, and it's going to go ahead and change that for them. And then this one's not ready. So there are tons of languages here that will read it to them. And I know right now it says like for Filipino, that one's not available, but I know that they're constantly updating it all the time. But they do have the option of changing the language. So that way, they can go ahead and access that. So that's a great thing about Wakelet, is that it does have that partnership with Immersive Reader. And that's a great way, again, if you are sharing information with parents and with students who speak languages other than English, then they can go ahead and access that. So having check-ins, even like the one that we did earlier, I love doing this not only with teachers, but also with students, setting up that collaborative space for students to add in, right? And adding the directions there. So students are really good about like reading it after you tell them like 4 or 5 times. And they get used to going ahead and learning how to collaborate in that space and contribute. The other thing I wanted to point out, and someone, points this out all the time, they're like, well, does it allow students to respond to each other, like on Padlet? At this time, the way that students can respond to each other is just through emojis. So you'll notice that under every response, there's the little thumbs up. If you hover over it, there are 5 different reactions. So that's one way that students can go ahead and respond. But they are definitely, Wakelet is definitely working on allowing students to do a little bit more with giving each other feedback. So I do want to point that out because that's usually a question that I get. So I wanted to check in right now if you are on this space. I've shown you 6 different ways, I believe, that you could use Wakelet. And so I've set up this space for you to just use the icon. So here's one way that you can do that, where students get to vote, right? You can set this as a voting space. I've done it where like we did like animals. So I set up a Wakelet where I had these different pictures of animals, and then I shared the link, just the share link, not the contributor link, because I don't want them to add anything. Just come here and hover over the thumbs up and mark, using the reaction, which type of Wakelet would you like to try? Like that you're willing to try, that kind of caught your eye, that you're considering. But go ahead if you wanted to, and I'll even, if you're not on the main Wakelet, I can share this for you in the chat. But go ahead and use the reactions. And again, this is just a great way to, get students to vote or take a poll of something, where they would just use the reactions and you can see, and sometimes you could say like, just use one or use several of them. Or if you want to share in the chat, is there anything that I've shared with you so far that you're looking forward to trying? Okay, so we'll go forward then. All right, so then moving on to spaces. Spaces is, I'll say, once I started using Wakelet, I had like tons and tons of collections, and there was no way to organize them. Like, you couldn't move them around. You couldn't I even tried like, do I just put a collection inside of a collection? But then that made it difficult for me to like find them, kind of thing. And then Wakelet really listened to our feedback and created what's called spaces. So that really allowed me. Now I will say, wait, spaces serves different purposes. One way is for me to organize my collections. So what I did was I used emojis, and I have my own titles. And once I created these spaces, then I can move collections around and move them into the organized way. So this is how, that made like my type A heart really happy about being able to organize my collections. Another purpose of spaces was, again, because students 13 and younger, students under 13 couldn't have their own account. Spaces was a nice way for students to still be able to add their own collections. But again, they didn't have all of the things that you can add. So they can't add like a Flipgrid short, or they can't add they can't add Twitter into there, but they can still add text and upload images and bring in a link and bring in a PDF. And so you'll notice this is my account. If you're looking at my shared screen, you'll notice that this is my account. This is my main space, like my original one. So I've got my collections here, but you'll notice on the left-hand side, those little icons. So these are my spaces that I created. And so when you click on each one, then I've got collections inside. So again, you can set up this space so that way, I'm trying to find one. That then you can set it up. So like this one. This one is for Wakelet ambassadors. Hold on. It's like being funky. Where like Wakelet ambassadors have gone ahead into this one space, and then they can add different things in there, different information. So this is a great way for students to get to know each other, right? Setting up that space for them to like click, so they can click on this and then like learn information. And you, as a creator of that space, you've got some settings, right? It'll tell you all the members that are there. Let's see, I'll go to this one because this one I created. So in my space settings, I can set up my title, put if I want this profile to be public, and then that way it shows up on my profile if I wanted to. I've got some members who are here, and if I wanted to invite more, then what I would do is go ahead and copy this link and then share that with students, and then students could become part of that space without needing an account. So this was like a workaround before we did open it up, or before Wakelet opened it up to all students could have an account. But this is just a nice way to make it collaborative for teachers. Maybe your department all works in that one space and they're adding resources into it. So that's just, there's some different ways. And I even included some differences between just having a collection and then having spaces and what that does for you. So we have 7 minutes. I've also used Wakelet for Hyperdocs with students. What's nice is that, and I talked about templates earlier, is what you can do as the teacher is set up this. So like for me, I set up this Hyperdoc. I have all the links here that I want students to access. I've got directions here. And what I've done is if you click on the 3 dots, you'll see there's an option to copy collection. So when I set up a Hyperdoc, I'll make it, let me show you. So when I go into edit, there's a gear that's here. Click on that gear and I can turn on the sharing controllers. Okay, so by default, no one can make any copies, but you would have to come in as the creator, turn this on. And then when I share this link with students and they come onto this Hyperdoc, I'm going to direct them to go ahead and click the 3 dots, go ahead and copy that collection, and everything that was here is going to show up in their collection. What's really nice about copying collections is that the author is always given credit. So even if I copied it myself, I'll do that for you. So you can see I can change the title if I wanted to. I'm gonna go ahead and click change. You can hear, you always have to refresh typically when you do that. I'm gonna click on, that was my copy one. And now this belongs to me. So for that student, it belongs to them now. They'll go into edit and then they'll go ahead and, erase these and fill in those spaces. So setting up a space for students, like again, for Hyperdocs and setting up those so that way they can copy it. You can also make it so that way everyone is contributing to one, which then you have some things that you need to manage on that, but that's an option. Using this as a website. Now, Tisha Poncio is really good. I linked hers here so that way you could see. And she does a great job of doing this with students as well, particularly high school students. You'll see that Tisha uses this as her website. So she's got some, she's demonstrating like her current projects, ways that you can connect with her, conferences that she's attended, presentations that she's given, and then she's got some uncategorized ones. But she has got examples of how she does this with students as well. Just again, creating these different collections and then putting them in a public space and then just sharing that link with everyone, because then it becomes your website, it becomes your digital portfolio, right? Equity in Action California that I'm part of, we use it as a website as well. We've got some resources here for teachers, and we've just kind of set up that space for people to access and use. Using it for notice and wonder. So I'm a huge, teacher who loves to use primary sources, and really setting up a space for students to go ahead and collaborate and share. What do you notice? What do you wonder? So what I do is I set up the collection, ask them, what do you notice? What do you wonder? I include the primary source that I want them to share about, and then they're going to go ahead and click edit and then start typing what they notice and what they wonder. And so using that space, students really love that. Another one is doing like caption this. Again, uploading an image from maybe a book that we're about to read, and I have all those questions there for them. Including that image, and then they're going to go ahead and caption it as they see fit for that image and connecting it to whatever we're talking about. So using that space to do that. I've included a template here that you can copy and then use for yourself. There's more examples here on how I use it for presentations, for on-demand sessions. That was something that was huge this past April. Again, we were still kind of virtual with our PDs. So taking like recordings that I did, putting them all on Wakelet, and setting up a space for teachers to access those resources, access the recordings, and having a space for reflection. And then I also included a presentation template. I know we have 2 minutes. Also, so there's a playground that you can go ahead and click on and play around with Wakelet. There's a reflection space. And then there's also resources here. So I've kind of included like for the Wakelet community, their blog, they have a surf school where teachers have uploaded ideas and lessons that they've done. There's the template site that you can check out. There's the official guide, and then an explanation about sub-collections in collaboration form. But that's all there for you to access. This link is always going to be good, so you can always come back to it, use it as a resource. If you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer those. You can always reach out to me on Twitter or on Wakelet. I have my information at the top that you can take a look at. But if there's any questions, I'm here. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your conference, and thank you for joining in this space together.